All right, welcome to our Google Open training from UEN and GEGUtah. So excited to have you here today. Today we are covering what possibly is my favorite tool in all of Google, which is GoogleEarth, Google Maps, and we're going to look at Scholar for a few minutes too, because it has a couple things that are in level 2 that I think fit in really well today. But if you have questions as we go through, feel free to drop them in the chat, jump on the mic. We can work with you and get your questions answered. As always, we are working off of our Google site that's under the bit.ly of bit.ly/all caps UEN fall Google. Feel free to grab that site, share it with whoever you'd like. It's updated every week with the materials that we use in this course or in these sessions. So if you miss a session, or if you're like, I wish I could go back and review that session, I post them on the page that corresponds with them. So feel free to go back. Today, what we're going to be covering, like I said, is we're going to be looking at maps and Earth. Now, first of all, there's not a whole lot in level 1. In fact, there's no required material from Google on level 1 for maps or Earth or search. So we're going to just skip right to level 2. And there's a ton of stuff there, which are all kind of intricate. And so we'll get into that here in the next couple of minutes. And then afterwards, like always, we're going to do some helpful tips. And because this is one of my favorite ones, I went in and grabbed some lesson plans and some ideas that I really got excited about and just put it together on here for you. To start off with, though, I'm going to pop this in the chat. This is a little Google form. And it is just a quick little Google form asking you some questions that will come into play later. So if you have a minute while I'm starting off the training, if you want to go ahead and jump in and answer just 3 questions. What's your first name? Where could you travel to? Anywhere in the world if you could. Money is no object, real places only. Where would you go? And then optionally, if you want to upload a little photo of that location as well, preferably one that you took. But if you want to go on Google image search and grab one, that's totally fine too. But we'll come back to that in a couple of minutes. So how we're going to work today is we'll start with My Maps, which if you've never played with My Maps, that is a tool where it takes Google Maps, the kind that you use on your phone or on your desktop computer to search up locations and businesses, those sorts of things. And it actually strips all of that away and you can build a map on there, which is pretty incredible. And we'll look at that here in a minute. Then we're going to look at the actual Google Maps, going out and searching for things on the web. We'll go into Google Earth. And then we'll look at Google Books and Google Scholar really quickly as well. So those 4 tools are what we're going to look at a little bit differently today. We're going to spend about 20 minutes on the stuff for level 2. And then we'll dig in for about 15, 20 minutes into the helpful tips and the ideas as well. So let's go ahead and jump in. We're going to jump over to Google My Maps, which is, if you just Google search My Maps, you'll be able to find it really quickly and make it pretty easy for yourself. If you just search Google My Maps, you'll be all set. For me, it was the first thing that came up, and then you just hit Get Started. Now from there, you can see I have a couple maps already built in here. One for a seminar that I put together a couple of years ago. I copied it over from my old account right here. Something I did for an Ogden treasure hunt, those sorts of things. So to start off in here, you can go ahead and create a brand new map. That's what Google would like you to start with, is know that you can create a brand new map. And on here, as you can see, it's just the straight map, and we can zoom in, zoom out, just like we would normally. We can search things. So like, for instance, Ogden High School. There we go, perfect, which is just right there. And it gives you the details from Google Maps. And then you can also choose to add that to your map. So it's already added right there just by searching it. And we just hit the plus sign and it's ready to go. So pretty straightforward there. I'll do that one more time. So I'll look up, let's see, let's go with University of Utah. Cool. And there it is, searching it up. I'm going to take it to me. It's green. You can see that right there. I'm going to hit the plus sign and it adds it to that layer. So if I zoom out and click off of that little point and zoom all the way out, you can see I have 2 points on here, Ogden High and University of Utah. So I could make a map just by searching all the different places that I'd like to and add them that way. But Google wants you to know how to add things that way, or you can also just click on a map at a location and drop a pin. Like for instance, maybe I want Echo Canyon right there, and I can label it whatever I want and click save, and that will add that to it. On there, they also want you to know with My Maps how to change the color, how to change the icon. So if I go ahead and hit the paint bucket right here, it's going to give me my style. And this works for any icon. So if I go ahead and click one of those ones from like University of Utah, I can do the same thing. Click on the bucket. I can change it to the traditional red. I can add a home icon or a photo icon, or they have literally dozens and dozens of icons, or I can create a custom icon from a picture as well. So I could grab a picture of a specific location or my face, and I put that in as my little icon for my map. For right now, I'm just going to grab this little windstorm one, go ahead and hit there, and we are good to go. And you can see there's the icon for you. So with that said, that is all they want you to know for Google My Maps, is just the two things: be able to search and add a location, how to change the color and the icon on those particular locations. So pretty straightforward, but making sure you know it. Now, there are tons of other places or other things you can do with My Maps. We'll come back to that when we get to helpful hints. In fact, we'll do one of my favorite activities I've ever done with students in a few minutes as well with that Google form. All right, number 2, folks, is Google Maps. So this is Google Maps just like we've known it forever. Hopefully you use Google Maps or some sort of map service in your life pretty frequently. I do quite frequently to find different things around my town when I forget where they're at. So they ask you to know 2 things for Google Maps. So the first one is search for a place or an address. So again, I'm just going to go up here to Ogden High School, and there it is, and it'll zoom in on it for me, and there it is. Now what's nice is I can also change the layers here, and I can see traffic, or I can go ahead and add transit or traffic and see what kind of things are going on there as well. So lots of different layers there. I can also use my Pegman, which is the official name for a little yellow guy right here in the bottom right-hand corner. We can drag him, and anywhere there's a line or a circle, I can drop him, and that means that there is a 360-degree picture right in that location that I can zoom in on and move around in. Most of these come from the Google cars that you guys probably have seen. We can see the shadow of it right there, but some of them come from users as well. So if I zoom out just a bit, I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of Ogden High here and grab my Pegman again. You can see that I get a lot of locations, but some of these are way, way far away from roads. Like for instance, right here in the UENTAs, we have a lot of circles there. And so I'm gonna go ahead and just drop them on one of those circles. And there we go. Now I'm in the UENTAs. Somebody has taken a 360-degree photo in this location and has uploaded it to Google. So lots of really cool things there. And if you're looking for a little fun tip for you or for your students, you can actually download the Street View app or the Street View app for your phone, and it'll let you take 360-degree pictures in it, and then you can upload it to Google Maps. So kind of fun thing to do with that as well. All right, the third thing is that they want you to know how to find a location or address using Google search. So again, I'm just gonna go ahead and Google search Ogden's High School. And then right on here, you can see that if I put in a specific location, I get a couple pictures of location, but right here on most search specific things, if it's a location, it gives me the map as well. And then I can click on it, it'll take me to the Google map. So pretty cool little shortcut there for searching as well. All right, that is level 2, everything you need to know for Google Maps. Pretty straightforward. We'll get to some cool ideas with it here in a little bit, so hold your horses on that one. All right, third tool today is Google Earth, which is my favorite tool in all of Google. I just adore spending hours, if I can, just diving into locations and going places around the world and seeing what's going on this wonderful interactive globe. If you haven't ever been to Google Earth, it's earth.google.com. It is free, and it is available on the web, so you don't have to do a download anymore. It used to be a download. Now you can get it just through the web. So it works on Chromebooks, it works on cell phones. It's really kind of cool. So they ask to know 2 things about Google Earth. Oh, sorry, 3 things about Google Earth that you would like to, or they would like you to know for level 2. So the first thing is that they want you to know that you can create a project. So what a project is in Google Earth is that you can create a tour of locations in a specific area all around the globe, whatever you'd like, and you can customize that tour. So over here on the left-hand side, we get this little bar of tools right here. So we got a search bar, we got Voyager, which we'll look at later. You got I'm feeling lucky, which is kind of fun to play with if you want to just go somewhere random around the globe. You've got your projects right there, so that's what we'll get to in a second. We got map styles and layers. And then we got our measure and ruler right there. So we're going to click on projects. It's going to give us this tab, and you can see I've already created a couple projects. I'm just going to click on one and show you what it looks like. It's going to zoom out and show you some of the locations around the world. There's the first one. There's a couple of them there. And if I click on any of these, it'll take me to that specific location. You can see it pops up with an image that I designed and a little blurb. I can do more with that if I'd like to, but this is kind of the basic, adding images, adding some text. So I'm going to go ahead, and you can see up here in the top right corner, I can go ahead and click new project, and it's going to give me some options. So the first one is create in a Google Drive. So you can click that one. It'll save it in your Google Drive. This will work for your students as well. And they can go ahead and grab that project and work on it out of their Google Drive, which is fantastic. You can also open the project from Google Drive so students can share within their Google Drive and make copies of each other's projects and then upload them. So if you're a teacher and you want them to take notes, this is a great way to give them a pre-made project and then let them edit their own, turn in later. You can also create a KML file, which allows it to upload to different locations, other map styles all around the web, and then import from Google or Google Drive or from computer. We're just going to go ahead and create a brand new project in Google Drive. And that's the first thing I want you to know is just go ahead and create a new project. From there, we're going to add a brand new feature to it. Well, first of all, we're going to add a title. So right here, as always, add a title. I'm going to go with locations around Utah. Cool. Then I can add a description right here, locations that I love around Utah. Boom. And then from there, if I just click off of it, it saves that work there, and I could add more context to it if I wanted to. I could add instructions. So going back to like note taking for geography or even for English or science. Hey, students, I want you have to take this amount of notes on each location. We'll be working on it over the next couple of weeks. You put those in the instructions right there as they make copies. So now that we've got our title, we've got our description, now we want to go ahead and find a location. So I can go ahead and hit new feature. I can search to add a place. I can add a place mark. I can draw a line or shape, which we'll come back to later, or I can add a full screen slide. So if you want to grab a slide deck from Google Slides, you can actually import it here and have it ready to go. For right now, I'm just going to go ahead and search to add a place, and I'm going to go ahead and do Kings Peak, Utah. Cool, there it is. Search it. It's going to zoom out, do the whole zoom out thing, which is awesome to see. And it's going to drop me right into Utah, highest peak in Utah, Kings Peak. I love Google Earth because it does that wonderful pan around work so we can kind of see it from different locations. Once it's there, then you get a little picture, you get all of this data here, and we can click add to project. We go ahead and save it. And now you can see it's in my location or in my project right there. These little bars allow me to drag things up and down. So if I add a second feature, let's say Provo River. Cool, Provo River Falls, that's even prettier. I was up there a couple of weeks ago, right before it snowed. It was beautiful. Go ahead and hit add to project, save. And now I can move Kings Peak up or down with other locations. I can also click edit feature, and it's going to allow me to change out the title, the information about that location. I can change the place marker and add color just like we did on my maps. And then also I can actually change how people view it. So I can change the heading, the tilt, the range, where my students are specifically looking at, so I can give them a little bit of a different kind of view as well. Very, very cool. If you hit replace, by the way, it just takes out the original data from that location and allows you to put in your own pictures and your own titles and all that sort of information. It's really, really helpful and cool. All right, last thing that Google wants you to know is how to share this. So as always, if we are looking to share something on Google, we are going to go ahead and find the little person with the plus sign, which is right there. It says share project. And from there, I can go ahead and share it just like always with a couple different features. So this looks very familiar if you've ever shared something on Google. I can add a person right here by clicking in and then adding their email, or I can go ahead and make it public for everyone to view with the link. From there, I can then embed it or share it through different ways all around the internet. So, and that's everything that Google wants you to know for Google Earth for level 2. So again, we've covered Google My Maps, Google Map Search, Google Earth. So lots of map stuff. I know it's all pretty samey right now, but don't worry, we'll get into some cool stuff here in a few minutes when we get to the helpful tips. All right, the last thing, folks, is Google Scholar. And Google Scholar only comes in again in level 2. but it is super helpful to know some things about Google Scholar. Google wants you to know two things. So first of all, you can search for books. So earlier today, I was searching one of my favorite authors, James Joyce. And right there, I can go ahead and see that I have book titles in here. And what's great through Google Books and Google Scholar, I can go ahead and start reading sections of that text within my browser. Can't read the whole text. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, those sorts of things. But it's really nice to be able to have that. But then also I can add it to my library and then I can cite it. So even if I can't read the whole book online, I may have read it offline, maybe for an English class or a science class or social studies class. But then I can cite it and use it in my research papers, which is really nice. So that's number one. They wanted you to know that you can search for books. The second thing they want you to know is using Google Scholar to find a text written in the last year. So I'm going to go ahead and do James Joyce again, search him. And then right here on the left-hand side, you get all of your tools to search for specific things within Google Scholar. So first of all, I can search anytime, by relevance, sort by date. I can include patents, I can include citations, or I can create an alert. So I love creating alerts for projects that I'm working on and things that I'm interested in. So like for instance, personalized competency-based education. I want to know more about that. So I'll put in an alert for that search term. And anytime new material comes out through Google Scholar, which is a conglomerate of a lot of scholarly background article databases, I can go ahead and get an email from them that there's a new article, or here's a bunch of articles that just came out. Go read them. So you're ready to go. To search for a specific time, so I'm going to go ahead and hit search since 2021. And then here are all the articles that have come out this year about James Joyce. What's great, and this isn't something that Google wants you to know, but I think it's really helpful, is underneath any article, you can click on it and read the article. Sometimes, remember, you might have to buy into a database, and that's where tools like Utah's Online Library or eMedia can help out here in the state of Utah. But the biggest one is that I can also cite, and it gives you the citation in a variety of formats. So really cool material there through Google Scholar. But again, all they want you to know is that you can search for books, and then you can find texts within a certain time period. Maybe you're looking for a specific time period, like a date range of like 2009 and 2011, or maybe you just want the most recent stuff since 2021 started. Very, very cool. All right, so that is everything. Switching this back over. Well, actually you guys can't see it, that you need for level 1, level 2 for maps, Earth, and Scholar. So now we're going to get into some of the fun, helpful tips today. And that's where we're going to spend about 15 to 20 minutes working on these. And hopefully, if you didn't yet, there's a little form in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and pull it back up again and click send and share this. If you have a minute in about the next 2 minutes to fill that out, it's going to help me with a little project here in just a second. What we're going to look at here is, again, some helpful tips for Google My Maps, Google Maps, Google Earth, and some scholarly stuff. And these are things that I've actually done with students that I absolutely love working with. And if you get confused or if you have questions throughout, feel free to put in the chat and we'll answer at the end. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and go to My Maps. And I am going to go and add a sheet to my map that has location tag data. So I'm going to go back to my form here. Some of you guys already filled this out. If you're still in the process, that's okay. It'll pop up here in a minute. What I did is I asked a question in here. Where could you go? Where would you want to go if you could go anywhere in the world? Okay. So this might be a question you could ask. What place do you want to study about in a social studies class? Where is your scholar from that you're researching, or your scientist that you're studying in science class? Where is your author from that you're writing your book report about? Where was this theorem or this problem developed in math? So lots of different ideas. Or art. Where was this art developed? Where was this process made throughout the world? So lots of different options here. And as long as it's location based and it's real location, so not like Hogwarts or Middle Earth or something like that, we can go ahead and add that to our map. So if I go to responses here really quickly, and right here, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. If I hit create spreadsheet, I'm going to create a brand new spreadsheet from that. It's going to open up and it's going to have my data on it. There it is. Cool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over to my maps. And you see right here where it says layer. I'm going to add a layer. It's going to add another layer down here, and I'm going to click import. So from there, I can go ahead and hit my Google Drive, hit my recents, and there is my data from our form that we've been working with. Once I do that, all I have to do to make this easy on myself, hit the question that has the travel question on it, hit it again one more time, click finish, then check this out. It takes a second to load and depends on how many data points you have. But now we have a location in Fiji. Thanks, Kayla, for dropping that in. And we have a picture of her location. And then over here, let's see if it popped in correctly. Yep, there it is. There's mine from earlier, Venice, Italy, with my picture as well. So lots of really cool things that you can do with this, where you can ask a very simple question to your students. And what's great is that you can ask them questions where they plug in different information. But then if you go ahead and share this map with the students, they can edit their own data point and add more stuff to it, add more pictures, change their icons, all sorts of stuff, and they can take notes with it. It's one of my favorite things to do with students, to get to know them, to engage them with the real world, to connect multi-subjects together. And it's just so simple when you understand that you can just import that data and it will update as well as you do more of it. So really kind of cool. All right, number 2. That is a kind of a fun lesson plan. This is for more math, but you could do this for a lot of different things. And I'll show you an example of that in here in a minute. Let's say that, and I'm going to make this really easy on myself here, Colorado, we wanted to measure the area of Colorado roughly. Well, right up here on my toolbar, I have, first of all, a little hand and I can move the map around. I have my location pointer we talked about earlier, where I can drop a little pin and I can add that to my map. But next to it, I also have draw a line or a shape to it. So if I go ahead and click on that one, I can add a driving route, biking route. I'm just going to add a shape. I'm just going to go ahead and click on the 4 corners of Colorado. And you can see as I do that, it creates a rough square. What's going on? I'm just going to go back to my original point. There it is. I'm going to say Colorado. Oop, that is not how you spell Colorado. Sorry, folks. There. Click save. And as I click on it, we get some data back. So there's my location for that, those sorts of things. I can also measure that location. So same thing right here, see? Ooh. Boom, boom, and boom. There's my square miles. There's my mileage around it to go around the entire state. So you can either save it through that drawing tool, or you can just go ahead and measure that area and distance as well. So to give you a kind of an example of this, I'm going to go back to all of my maps and go back to one that I pre-built a few years ago. It's called my Vietnam War seminar. I got lucky to go to a Vietnam seminar a few years ago through Gilder Lehrman. And this was my final project. And so I wanted to create supply lines from the United States to Vietnam during the Vietnam War. And so here's one of the main supply lines. And I just drew this line from California, from the base that they were at, to where it was dropped off in southern Vietnam. And then if I click on that line, I actually left some data on there, tells me how long the supply line is, and made it really easy. And I'm just going to see that information. I'm also going to zoom in really quickly here. You can see that I drew shapes around the different battle zones and the different lines of attack for different battles. So really kind of cool. And then all these black dots right here were a data set from the University of Chicago that I imported. Each location is a spot where a Marine troop actually dropped in and talked to villagers. And you can see the name of the city. And on the actual data, if you connect it, I only connected the city name. You can see how many people were in the village and how old they were, and some more kind of biographical data about that location. So you can do some really kind of cool little things with my maps to illustrate, or have students illustrate, their learning of history, of location, and connect it between subject matter as well. Because yes, this is about Vietnam, but imagine if I'm an English teacher teaching a book about Vietnam. This is a really vital tool for them to understand the spatial reasoning of what's going on. But then also on the flip side, it connects to their historical learning in their classes. So that's one of my favorite things to do. The last thing really quick is that you can embed any of your maps on another site, like a Google site. So if I go ahead and click right here up at the top in the 3 lines, I can click embed on my site. And there's my embed code to go drop that on Google site or on a website or wherever I want. I can copy that and ready to go. I just wanted to point out too that you can also export to a KML file or KMZ file and send that to Google Earth. So you could build this over here, send it to Google Earth, and add some more some more depth to it by using Google Earth, which is great. All right, moving on quickly, folks, because we only got about 12 minutes left before I'm going to move to questions. If I go over to Google Maps, this is just Google Maps again. Just a couple of things I want to show you because I think this is helpful for students to know this as well. And for you, you might find use for this in your teaching life at some point. Now, these aren't searchable things, but they are just things that really kind of help us to understand what's around us. So right here in the bottom right or bottom left, we have our view of the map. So right now I'm just in the map view. Now I'm in the satellite view, but I can also add my traffic. I can add transit, or I can click more and I can go ahead and see all sorts of stuff on here. So there's COVID-19 information, there's a street view, there's biking trails, there's terrain. So that I can actually see kind of a terrain map of how things work. So it just gives us alternative views of what's going on this map, rather than just that, straight ahead default map view that most of us rely on to just search things day to day. So know that that's kind of helpful, and maybe, it might be helpful for some of your teachers in your building to switch on terrain view and show students why and where water runs in our areas, those sorts of things, to show watershed. The other thing I want to show you really quickly on Google Maps is just bottom right-hand corner is this little guy. So we got our peg man right there. We talked about him earlier. But if we have this little double arrow right here, if I click up on that, this is our explore button. And what's cool about this is that this is just the area, it's searching the area that I have in view right now. So if I change my view, see how it changed right there. So it's going to change based on where I'm looking at. And what's great is that it has 360-degree pictures, it has images. It basically gives you an on-offer of what is in that area that's kind of beautiful and what a lot of people tend to search for. So here's a picture of the top of Mount Ogden, and you can see all the way to the Great Salt Lake and all the way around. But it's kind of a beautiful thing to be able to see that. If you're not sure what you're looking for, maybe you want your students to develop some geographic knowledge about a location or to explore a space that is pertinent to what you're teaching them. I did this once with students when we were learning about the Diary of Anne Frank, and we went to one of the concentration camps and they kind of explored, and it was really helpful for them to see some of those locations and understand a little bit more what was going on. So really kind of cool. Again, little double arrow right there, and then you can see what's going on in there. All right, now let's move over to, again, my favorite tool in all of Google, which is Google Earth. Absolutely love Google Earth. So a couple things on here. So I'm going to zoom out a bit. There's Kings Peak again. So we came here earlier today. I'm going to go ahead and hit this button right here. It says 3D versus 2D. 3D switches it on to where now I can see terrain and details, and it gives me this great spin around. If I click, it stops, but it keeps me in that view. So I can zoom in and see that contour detail of the mountains. Or if I go into a city like Salt Lake, which is right here, once I get in there, it should give me some contour detail of the buildings in downtown Salt Lake. So really cool. And depending on where you're at in the world, sometimes it gives you more or less detail. It might take you a minute to get all that detail as well. Something that always annoys me is that right now I'm facing east, but I want to face north because that's what I'm used to. So if I click the little button right down here in the bottom right, it looks like a compass. Just one time, it'll reorient me to the northern position so I can see straight up. But I can also double click on that and it'll switch out with a globe and give me a turntable that I can spin around and find the view I want of a specific location, which is really nice. If I double click again, I get my globe back, and then I can move around and go to a specific location based on that. So it makes it really easy for me to find locations. All right, down on the bottom of the page here, on the left-hand side, we have two little dots here. So the first one is our add place mark. So again, just like my maps, if I click that and then click a location, it'll allow me to drop that, and then it'll add to the last project that I was working on, which is really fantastic. Or I can start a new project directly from that. So maybe you just want to start a new project and run around a location on the globe and you're good to go. The other thing is also you can, again, draw lines and shapes. And if you're right, and you can just go ahead and build whatever shape you want as you go around. Sometimes they disappear. That's okay. It just basically is letting you draw that shape around that makes it easy to build. There you go. All right. 2 more things on here that I think are absolutely fantastic tools in Google Earth. Number 1 is this button called Voyager. If you've never played with Voyager, get ready to say goodbye to about 2 hours of your life, because there's just so much fun stuff on here. Just tons and tons of great tours, applications that you can do on Google Earth, like Mars on Earth, which is cool. Or you can do games. One of my favorite ones is, there's lots of quizzes, but they also have a Carmen Sandiego game, which super cool for our elementary age kids. And there's a couple of different versions of it as well. There's Street View, Layers, Culture, Travel, Education, lots of really cool stuff. In the education one, they actually tie a lot of these lesson plans to other places like Math for Media, PBS, HHMI, Biointeractive, and they have all the material plugged in there, so it becomes kind of a lesson plan. As with anything, make sure you view it, experience it before you hand it off to your students. But I will say there is a lot of really great material on here. And all you have to do is, let's actually just go play Carmen Sandiego for a second. If I click on it, it just goes ahead and loads that game up for my students, and I can click begin the chase, and I'm off to the races. Now it doesn't change anytime, so it's only one experience to play through it, but still super fun for the students to do something like that. All right. And then the last thing really quickly is I want to go to the layers tab. So I'm just going to zoom in a bit. We'll just go back to Utah here, just kind of hover over Utah. If I click on my layers tab here, this gives us our map styles. Yep. And we can choose a couple things. So right now I'm on clean, no borders, no labels, whatever. I can add exploratory, where I can see state boundaries, international boundaries, those sorts of things. I can grab everything. So if I zoom in, it's going to give me, roads and street view and all that sort of stuff. And then I can also customize. And this is where it gets kind of cool, is that I can add specific, locations, neighborhoods, places, or I can actually add clouds. I don't know if you noticed this. See if I can get it to work here. Yeah, there you go. So Google Earth actually takes cloud data from the last couple of days and will show you in real time. It loads up sometimes kind of slowly, but it'll show you where the clouds have been for the last 24 hours or so around the world. So you can see where storms are at. And when there's a hurricane, you can see all of that cool data coming in real time of where the storm is at and where it's about to hit. So it's really valuable tool for students and for teachers to see really cool specific things about the world around them in real time.
See you later.
It's super fun. Awesome. All right, last thing, folks, in the last 4 minutes we have, I'm going to go over to Google Scholar. And there are 2 things I want to cover over there just really quick. We already talked about this again just a few minutes ago, but I just want to remind you to create alerts. If you're looking for a specific subject matter, you can go ahead and click on that and then create a specific term on a search query, and then it'll send to that specific email, show up to whatever results, and it'll create an alert every time there's new articles about that. You can also manage those by clicking on alerts and then create new alert for a particular subject matter, which is super helpful. The other thing that you might want to check out is metrics. I use this sometimes with my college students. You could probably do this with upper grade students that maybe are having a hard time picking out a research topic or an idea that they want to work with. These are for top publications, public access mandates. And these are all of the data that, or the subject matter that's coming in that people are really researching quite frequently, which is really cool. And the types and the top cited publications. And there's just going to be a ton of stuff on here. But what's nice is that I can hover over here and it'll give me that search. So I can go over there and look at that as well. So students might find, especially in upper grades, some of the terminology in here might be helpful for them to go, oh, there's a really cool subject there that I'm really interested in, that I can work off of. Also, you can build a library. So if you click that and you start any articles, it'll save that for later. And the last thing is that you can also search case law by federal courts or Utah courts, and you can also grab specific courts across the country. So for teachers who are teaching ELA, maybe even debate, and then grad school, especially if you're looking at a master's degree, sometimes this really helps to go grab some of these really specific court appearances and search those as well for specific information. So Google Scholar has some great depth to it as well. All right, with that said, I'm going to stop sharing for just a second. I'm going to jump back in and share my screen back to give you a couple things at the end here, a couple pieces of information. Number one, just a reminder that we are doing everything on our Google share site for UEN and GEGUtah. You can find that at bit.ly/all-caps-UEN fall Google. All of the videos from prior sessions are located on here. So if we did a forms training, Deanna and I, a couple weeks ago, there's the video right there. It's up on YouTube and you can share it with whoever you want as well. And if you're wondering what some of the skills that we haven't covered yet are, if you go to Google Certified Educator L1 and L2 slides, you can click on here and this gives you the official slide decks for Google that will walk you through all the skills they say you need to know for level 1, level 2 in 2021. I'm still stuck in 2020, folks. Last thing here really quick as well is just a couple reminders about Google Educator Group Utah. If you aren't a member, we would love to have you. So you can join here by clicking join Google Educator Group Utah. And it's a quick form, pretty easy to fill out, takes just a couple minutes. We had an October meetup that Deanna was a part of last week, which is getting a lot of views now, which is fantastic. And you can watch that. It's only a 25-minute video and walks you through some great things about Google Forms. We also have our October newsletter just went out today with a lot of videos and content for Utah teachers, as well as get spotlit as a Utah Google educator.